Keith, I was curious to know, you talked a little bit about it in the panel, but the difference between you and this on-screen character that's sort of based on you, are you able to see like a clear divide of what you feel is you and what you see portrayed?
Oh, certainly so. I think we made the character to be a lot more naive than myself in real life. Like I was already doing cartoons about police profiling, brutality when the incident with the police happened to me. So it wasn't like, oh wow, this happens. Um, but it's it's for the audience, the journey of that. But Lamorne and I have had similar sort of, I don't know, just our existence are on a parallel thing. It's just him in acting and me in cartooning. So I think we had a lot of things in common. But the elevator pitch for the character is he's the Charlie Brown of activism. You know, he's trying to do the right thing, and things don't go as well as he had hoped. To the audience's joy and amusement.
So I was gonna ask, like, you know, you kind of touched on Lamar. How was it knowing when you guys cast him? Like, how did you feel about that, knowing that he was gonna play yourself?
It's interesting because we went through a lot of auditions and stuff, and then when we found out he was interested, it was just like, oh, okay, and I think since it was so early on, when you heard these names of these really talented people, the same thing happened with Blake. It was like, Blake's interested. Oh, that's great. We'll never get him. So we just kept on looking and looking, and honestly, like all we could do was just look. We created these scripts and these sides for them to do, and they knocked him out of the ballpark. And honestly, like with Blake, Gunther was the hardest one to cast because there were dudes who could do the stoner thing, but they sort of came off creepy. But Blake was just consummate professional. Just he can just be Blake, and like it's amazing the sort of crossover. Talk about first season having that crossover index that Keith has. Blake he can walk in anywhere, and everyone's like, "Ooh, workaholics," and and then they're buying him drinks and everything. It's amazing. It's amazing.
The second season, what are we going to be talking about most, and what were you absolutely passionate had to be included in there as a subject that you were going to approach?
I think for us, the whole theme of it was sort of the commodification of woke. So what happens, and I think we talked about it, it's like what happens when Charlie Brown becomes the most popular person in school. Like, so suddenly, like, Keith has this platform and people are listening to him and corporations are sidling up to him. So, what happens when it doesn't go as well as planned. So I think that was a huge thing. But also, one of the big subjects, especially in San Francisco, is homelessness. And so we addressed that in the show. I think that was pretty important. But also, the effect of social media, too.
How was this project different from working on projects like Bad Boys and Barbershop? Like, what were you hoping? What was different from like?
It's more. When I met him, we had a lot of similar experiences as well. This was closer to something I really wanted to do.
Okay.
The other stuff was a job, and it's sort of hard. Like Bad Boys 2 is a thing. It's a house that's already built.
Yeah.
So you come in and you're secretary, just moving words around. This was more. I got it. I'm inside of something. And we're building this house. And granted, he already had the IP was his comics.
Yeah.
But sort of when I met him and we started talking about this, it's a house we're building together. And then when he came on, it was just it clicked. So yeah, the short answer is I really care about this one. so yeah.
For Anthony, I know you joined for the second season, but you worked on Broad City before this. What's the biggest difference in writing for, I guess, cable, where you can get by with like TV 14 level stuff, and working for streaming where you're not so constrained by time and rating.
Yeah, I mean they're very different shows, obviously. With this show, I got on board because they already had a lot of what they wanted to do in season 2 and the things they wanted to explore, and I just thought they were really interesting ideas. And so my job was to kind of take the things they wanted to do and help make those happen. And I think a big kind of shift we wanted to make in season 2 was that in the first season it's really focused on Keith, and he's had this traumatic thing happen to him, and it's very internal, and now that he's speaking out more, to change the focus of the show to that too, and have more of the ensemble, have more focus on the relationships between the characters more, and so we kind of tried to push it out and make the show feel bigger in season 2. So that was like another big push.
But making it feel bigger. My thing is, I love when the three roommates are together. So I want an episode that's just the three of them in the apartment talking. Do one of those just for me.
That's all.
Believe me, yeah, I think Hulu and everybody would like that too. Bottle episode, I think I'm
Trap them all together.
promising 3 episodes for season 3 where they're bottle episodes. One in an elevator. They brought me, and one Gunther just showering.
Without a washcloth.
Oh my goodness.
If there's one, it's funny because whenever I see that washcloth, I just see there should be a face on it. Don't drop me not like I should know.
The first episode kind of touches a little bit on changes that we've seen, in the world since the first season ended. How much are you guys surprised by, progress or lack thereof, and all the few steps forward, few steps back that we keep making as you're telling these stories?
Yeah. Well, for me, my concern during 2020, I've said this a million times, is this a moment or a movement? And I hate to be a cynic about this, but it was a moment. That moment has passed. So now the issue is how do we profit from that moment? And the residual feelings and emotions that are left over. So now it's sort of become a corporate thing. And now you have the sort of a battle between the so-called woke end of things and the people who are anti-woke. So now it's sort of split down the middle in this sort of conflict that surprises me. I don't think we were expecting that, really. I expect it.
Just the cynical.
I fully expect it. Yeah, it's always going to happen. It happened with politically correct. Oh, we're going to be politically correct. Everything's going to be woke, and it's just like it's a silly thing, and it's not a surprise that the most everybody's done is put Black Lives Matter signs in their yards, and I would say that there are more ads now with mixed race couples, but that's progress. No, it's just the real change takes real work, and right now there aren't enough people willing to make that work, and there's plenty of people who want to ban teaching stuff in school, even though it's not even taught there, but we're seeing basically history play itself out again and again and again, because they were doing the same thing with evolution in the 20s and teens, and then right after the Civil War, there were people going onto school boards saying, don't teach it that it was about slavery at all. It's where we don't teach the history of this country very well, and so we're destined to repeat it over and over again. So, and that's probably the reason why our show will have a great shelf life.
The heart is so evident in it with all of you guys, and then with your cast. They're so vulnerable about it. It's such an honest conversation about I want to be woke, but I want to be woke in the right way. And how do I not piss off other people, but be true to myself? All of your comments. It was so wonderful. How do you guys walk the line with that, where you're I want to show this honesty, and I want to do this, but we also have to show what the important issues are, and how do we show what's the right way when what is the right way?
Yeah, I mean that was a big thrust of season 2 was how we realized that it's all so complicated,
Yeah.
and it feels heavy to to try, and so we tried to explore what that means. I mean, we have. I'll give some little thing away. We have a scene that is literally it's a self-help group for white people who are trying to to be more woke and are failing at it and feel bad about it. So we want to acknowledge that desire and the work that people are trying to do, even in the struggle with that, because I think we're all feeling it. It's like, how do we make it better and not feel like we're failing all the time and have people mad at you?
Yeah, and it's interesting because when I do slideshows around the country with my work, and that's the biggest question that white people ask. It's like, I'm afraid to do it because I don't want to do anything wrong, and it's like, it's not about being right or wrong. It's about making the effort. Like it's, and I see this all the time. You know, if you've ever gone to France, they say, "Oh, make sure you learn some French because they get all mad if you speak English." And so I got so nervous that I learned as much as I could, and then when I went there and tried to say it, like people were like, you know, that's really nice that you tried to do that, but I speak English. And they were just appreciative of the effort of doing it. So, like, no one's going to get mad at you because you actually care about something. You know? It's like, it's.
But then when you showed Keith and like he was trying to say things he cared about, and then people were like, "Oh, but what about you're not saying it this way?" And it was like, "Wow, like that's very honest. That you could get feedback that's very negative for him."
Well, again, we want to show the gray area of it. Like, there's no black and white. And in fact, if there was an alternative title for this show, it would be the gray area. You know, but it just did not test well.
Not at all. Not at all.
Oh
No.
Lord.
You know, I'd rather have a show called Woke where people either, you know, they're into it or they hate it. You know, because a lot of times the people that hate it the most are sort of the people that are obsessed with it the most. And it's just like, you know, that's what they said about Howard Stern. Like people who hated Howard Stern listen to him longer than people who liked Howard Stern, which is really interesting. Please don't call us the Howard Stern.
Oh my God.
Guys, we have to wrap it up.
Thank you guys
All right,
so
thank
much
you
for
very
your
much.
time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.